In this video, we're going to assemble the one piece, and we're going to finish the design that you've been working on. I'm going to show you how I assemble all of my connection points, how I sew in my bust dart. I'm going to show you how I install the elastic and add the top stitch, and I install my hardware. I'm going to show you my sewing room and introduce you to my sewing machines, and we're going to put it together and finish our swimsuit. And this is my sewing space. As I mentioned earlier, it is possible to assemble a swimsuit with a straight stitch machine. It just won't look store-bought. I use an Overlock, and I suggest that you do too. And this is my favorite. I use it for everything that I make out of stretch fabric because the seam allowance only goes up to 3/8. And this is my straight stitch machine. I use this machine for all of my buttonholes, zigzag, stretch stitch, putting on my hardware. It does a really good job. This is my cover stitch machine. I'm going to do all of my top stitching over my elastic. And with these machines, I'm going to show you how I assemble the swimsuit. And the first thing that I like to do with my pieces is pin them together. We have our swimsuit back, front, hardware, and liner, and our elastic that we're going to use. I pin my connection points because the feed dogs underneath usually only grab the bottom fabric and the top generally will slip, and you won't get an even connection when you sew. We pin them together to secure them down, and I put the pin just outside so that I don't run over it with the machine. We pin all of our edges all the way around. Before I sew, I have the machine set to 4 thread. I have the double needle because I don't want my connection points to stretch. When we sew, we want to maintain this little line right here so that the overlock will maintain a smooth, clean edge. We don't want it curling or wrinkling. We want to maintain a consistent sewing line, following the contour. We don't want the machine to cut the fabric because we've already cut the fabric. On the bust line, we're going to sew the elastic in, and then the elastic is going to be folded over here. And then on the bottom is the same. We'll put a pin there and put a pin here, and we're going to scrunch the bust line in between those points. Add a pin. We put the back on top, sew it in together, scrunch it in to the bottom, see the other side, and we want to maintain our elastic points because we're going to fold our elastic over, and we don't want to run over it. It's a very tight squeeze here. We sew that in, keeping our distance around on on our line. This is our bust dart. Scrunched in and stretched in. The elastic is going to go on top here. We're going to fold that over like that, and we're going to top stitch right on top of that. And we're going to fill in our keyhole with elastic. For my liner, I want to put a finished edge on my liner. I want to use 3 thread, so I'm going to cut my 4 thread and remove my needle. I'm going to adjust the feed dog so that it gives me stretch, and I'm going to increase my stitch length. We're going to sew in a finished line so that it will stretch when it's in. We do that on the top and the bottom. With the finished edge on the liner, we put a pin on the notches to anchor it down front and back. That way everything is identified and we won't have any parts of our swimsuit out of alignment. And we're going to sew in the legs. I've put my elastic at the seam in the center to hide any bulk that we might have. We can lay our elastic at that point. On the elastic, what I do, I pull the elastic, not a lot, just about a finger's worth, and keeping it right on the edge. And we flatten out the seam. You might want to pull the fabric over the seam. The elastic comes at the top of our liner, and the end of our elastic touches the top, and you end up where you began. These ripples are the pulls that you're making. You can see that the elastic is working. You want to have the other side the same. You want it to be very consistent. You want all of your edges to be even. I push my seam always to the back. And we end right where we started. We want our suit to be consistent where both sides are even. We don't want any whipper jaw on our seams. On the back, when we attach the hardware, we're going to start the elastic. We're going to fold our fabric a 1/2 inch between our fabric end and the elastic. And you can start just short of that, right on the edge. Start your sewing. And we grab our hardware point, pull our fabric, stretch, pull the elastic just a little bit. And we don't want to cut the curves. We want to keep the ends rounded. And we go right to the end and we cut that right there at the half. Finish that out. And there it is in the back. And we're going to put the hardware piece in here All of our pieces have elastic and we're ready to put in the top stitch. The top stitch machine is one of my favorite machines because it gives us a real professional looking finish. We take the elastic that we have and we fold it underneath, put it on the machine here, follow our little line on outside the foot and let the machine pull the fabric right to the end, and you just want to roll it over just a little bit. You take your thread out, and that gives us a really nice top stitch. It's very nice, and we got a great stitch on the back. Looks very professional. Next, I'm going to show you how we put in the hardware. The hardware comes apart like so. We connect it with our elastic is folded over on both sides, and we insert it into our slot, giving us the space to make a 1/2 inch fold. We pin it down to secure it, and we put it on the machine. I use a zipper foot. Come down, and we have a hardware install, and that will finish the swimsuit assembly. And now we have a complete one-piece swimsuit. And all of my connection points are adjusted. My bust is sewn in. We installed the elastic and the top stitch, and we lowered the center back as we did in the pattern earlier. And I hope that your swimsuit is just as fantastic as mine. And I want to take a moment right now and thank you for coming to my class. I hope that you have learned how to make your own swimsuit pattern. And I want to tell you, if you have any questions or you're confused about anything, in the question and answer section below, you can send me a message, and I would be happy to answer any questions or help you in any way that I can. Now that we have our master swimsuit template and we have all of our measurements, in the bonus video, I show you how to make a 2-piece bikini in a very short time. So if you see the bonus, you can make a 2-piece bikini in about 20 minutes. That concludes the assembly of the making the swimsuit, and that concludes the how to make a swimsuit pattern for yourself class. Thank you.